If you really chased happiness, you will figure out that success is a byproduct.
ये ऑनेस्टी का ज़माना अब है ही नहीं किसी भी कंपनी में.
Authenticity requires a different kind of standing up. Most people are showing up to life.
Mental health has become a very prevalent talk of the town now. Do you think people have started finding mediums through which they can talk more? Or has it really deteriorated as well?
The conversation on mental health has definitely become more now.
What are the most common kind of things which leaders out there in terms of how can they build secure, happy organization? Welcome back to GameRoom. We have Nidhi with us today. She's a CEO and founder of Quonscious. Nidhi, I'll let you explain a little bit more about what Quonscious does and what is it you guys are up to?
So Quonscious is an organization that does culture and people services. We're working largely with a lot of CXOs and boards, and the intention is to help them navigate and leverage culture as a business strategy as opposed to an orphanized vertical on its own. And there is compounded results you get from integrating that, which I feel many of them get to extremely late in their business careers. And we find now even startups, 300, 200 people startups, the minute it becomes a little beyond their reach to manage the culture, they're also reaching out. So it's a very happy space to be in. And then there is also the product side. So we're launching our own leadership apps to help drip irrigate a larger leadership at scale, which hasn't been done extremely well so far.
Okay. Leadership app you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to productize it.
Yes. The culture services will continue. The offline services, the energy of that is very different.
Sure.
And it's only a little bit of it can be transmitted digitally. But I think there's ample opportunity to both technologically evolve the people and culture space for sure. And while that is being done offline by a lot of good people across the globe, there hasn't been anything that has been done at scale.
Okay.
And so we end up putting leadership interventions only at the top or the A-class people and let everybody go. But if you look at a Ferrari and you only work on its engine and not the tires, it's not really helping.
Sure.
So that was the intention of doing the leadership app, was to make sure everybody had a good brushstroke of what leadership is over time.
So I'm very curious. I always felt that leadership is so people-oriented topic then that you can't forever think about productizing it. So can you throw a little bit more light on why should I need this app?
I think everybody needs this app. It's as much as why do I need food, right? It is nutrition for the mind. Everybody has the potential. Everybody needs that potential to be developed and nurtured, and there isn't much nourishment. So think of it from two perspectives, right? From the company's perspective and from the individual's perspective. A company, why do they need that? Every company wants to grow, right? We want good companies to grow. We want good companies to have a voice. We want them sustained. For that, what do they need? They need sustained growth, not just growth, sustained growth. Now, processes, people, and technology have a role to play, but they're enablers. Ultimately, through that plumbing line, the difference in the input and the output will depend on the water flowing through that plumbing line. What is the water? The people, right? So, making sure that every individual is a leader is the need of the hour. Earlier, it used to be a very pyramidal structure. Only the people at the top used to interact with the customers, and used to go attend these conferences, and then they used to put that information, somebody down the ladder would form it. Now it's a very flatter hierarchy. Now your customers are not just looking at the social reputation that you have, they are looking at every interaction, even in interaction with a developer, to realize whether the developer is the right kind of ethical, secure, innovative person to have in the team or not. If you're not really looking at each part of the organization, then you're 100% missing out because it's not canonical anymore. And the output is also compounded when everybody in the organization is aligned with that input. Right? So that's the need of the business. They want to grow, and having their people aligned with that, and just as much as you optimize your technology, you optimize the processes every year, you do your Six Sigma, your Agile, right? There has to be a process which is doing that consistently on the people side.
Okay.
And that's the gap that is killing organizations that we want to ensure doesn't happen from the company side. Because as I said, good companies need to grow, and we need more of them to set the right examples. From the people side, I think professionally they bring to work a percentage of themselves, because either they are not very clear what that personal side is, and two is whether it's really needed at work. And you lose out a lot because you're only talking to a mask, and a mask can only perform so much theatrics. But when you really delve down and allow them to take that mask out and bring all of themselves to the table, and all of that is in a very unashamed, unapologetic manner, because it has been nourished, right, to a certain degree of excellence, then you get compounded results. As a person has to grow when the organization grows, right?
Yeah.
Organization grows at the cost of people will be unsustainable in the long run, right? As more people, and the current generations are definitely more conscious than us in this regard. So how do organizations ensure that people are growing outside of these ad hoc leadership workshops that with the forgetfulness curve don't last long? Although the immersive nature of it has potential, but the drip irrigation method that we are using the app to do is far more fruitful and less impersonal, doesn't take too much time, is very personalized to his or her unique challenges, and leaves the other person the space to do it on their own way.
Sure. So will it create will it ask me to do a psychometric or something like that which defines me as a person and my colleagues? So how can I understand them better? Is it something on those lines? If I have to dumb this down further?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
All right.
So of course you do a basic assessment.
Yeah.
We don't want you to do a whole lot because people don't necessarily like surveys.
Yeah.
Right. So you just want it to be very natural. You come in, you tell me what do you want. What are your growth gaps and what are your other gaps, and I will bridge that through the initial 40. Once you like the app and you understand the care and the energy that has been built into nourishing you, and it's not a corporate pressure, but for your own pleasure that you are doing this, and then is when we have a personalized section where we ask, okay, now go ahead and dabble with yourselves. Who are you in your relationships? Who are you when you are reacting with the customer? What is the improvement level there? And all of that gets fed into the recommendation engine, which then empowers what you get to study.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And there's a whole lot of science that we have built in. It's not just, it's not just a wrapper.
Sure.
We have 13 hours for how do you reward and incentivize people. We have the entire gamification science that is in there.
Oh.
We have our own proprietary mastery levels, so 6 masteries and 170 behaviors that we track at the back end to enable the user to understand where to improve. And these masteries are everywhere. We're doing both personal and professional. Because a lot of what is existing out there in the digital science is very techno-functional. They are not personal. There is leadership content, but that content doesn't remember what you've been told. Here we remember. We remember what we've taught you. We remember what could be missing. There is a bot that helps you take care of the simpler issues and then build you parallelly at the back. Because just giving you fish to eat doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Right. So the bot does that when you're hungry, but it also makes sure that I'm teaching you how to fish on the side. So you don't need that fish every off and on.
Sure.
So it's a process built with a lot of care into evolving the individual, with the intention of also evolving the corporate.
Okay. All right. So you had made a statement in between how you can be unabashed at work, right? And मैंने कुछ दिन पहले एक LinkedIn पे एक पोस्ट रखा था जहाँ पे मैंने बोला था कि how can honesty go a long way in terms of making your life easier at work, on which somebody replied to me personally, obviously, कि यार मतलब ये honesty का ज़माना है ही नहीं किसी भी कंपनी में. तुम जैसे ही honest होने जाओ तो फिर मतलब there are a lot of repercussions which come with it. So somewhere I agree with that person कि unfortunately वो setup वैसा है अभी. लेकिन मतलब what is your reading about this? Why is honesty not getting heard, accepted, or for that matter pushed further in an org culture? I
would completely agree with him, and so I'll take a different perspective, and I hope that will help. ज़माना वो है जो तुम बनाओगे. ज़माना वो नहीं है जिसमें तुम succumb कर जाओगे. So because we are so used to succumbing, we think that ज़माना ऐसे ही है. So number one is अगर courage ही नहीं है तो फिर भूल जाओ. Accept कर लो कि you're on the other side of the fence. You can't do much. You're not empowered. But that said, on issues in cases में ना honesty का नहीं है. The issue is not the values. The issue is the skill. There is a skill on how to leverage the value. If you don't know the skill, you will lose out. अब जिसको क्रिकेट करना नहीं आता, जिसको बैटिंग करनी नहीं आती, वो बोलेगा मुझे रणजी ट्रॉफी वाले लेते ही नहीं है. मतलब इंडिया में क्रिकेट का कोई स्कोप ही नहीं है. राइट? तुमको वैल्यूज को कैसे बैट करना है वो आना चाहिए. ऑथेंटिसिटी के साथ करेज होना चाहिए. ऑथेंटिसिटी के साथ इंटीग्रिटी होनी चाहिए. एक इंटीग्रिटी बंदा ऑथेंटिसिटी से बात करेगा, एवरीबडी विल लिसन टू हिम. राइट? But if you don't have integrity and then you're speaking with authenticity, that comes across as either condescending or too holier than thou, and so on, right? So the issue is not honesty. The issue is that you have not built the trust equity or the empowerment to be able to get away with being honest. And that is an effort you have to make that you owe to yourselves and to your ecosystem. Worst case situation, it is an ecosystem where authenticity doesn't seem to work. You owe it to yourselves to get out.
So how do you define authenticity at work?
I think being able to speak your own mind.
Okay.
Because there's no one truth. But there is your truth. And as you understand it, and if you put it out there, then either you will change your own definition of truth, or you will convince somebody else on what it is and get them to move on it.
Sure. So मान लीजिए फॉर एग्जांपल आप एक कंपनी चला रहे हैं, मैं उस कंपनी का हिस्सा हूँ, आप बोले कि यार अपने को इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स में जाना है, और मुझे लगता है कि what is on my table is sufficient and I don't want to go with you in the international markets, but आपने वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मुझे दी है, ठीक है? What if I am honest enough and to tell you that यार मतलब मेरी उतनी भूख है नहीं, तू मतलब you are founder, you go figure out somebody else who can build that for you. I am extremely honest, I am extremely authentic. I am telling you that मेरे प्लेट में जितना है मैं उतना ही खाना है अगले 5 साल तक और कुछ नहीं करना है. I am being authentic, but what happens in that case?
That's great.
But
That's
then
great. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
If I give you, what is my alternative? My alternative is that I will force the other person to say, boss, मैं तो पैसे दे रही हूँ, मुझे ये outcome चाहिए. This is my vision.
Agreed.
And you have agreed to tug along, so please help out, right?
Yeah.
And I send that person there, and it takes me a year before I realize that his heart is not in there, and I wasted all the investment in there, right? That is worse off just because I cannot have that 5-minute conversation which says, what do you really think? Are you ready? And he's bound to say, you're not ready. And I say that, look, if you are okay and you're aligned with me, I'll put in the effort, I'll invest. नहीं तो देखते हैं 3 months के बाद एक कॉल लेते हैं, तू नहीं तो किसी और को ढूंढ लेंगे, राइट? बट तू जाके ट्राई तो कर. आई अंडरस्टैंड इट आउटसाइड ऑफ योर कंफर्ट जोन, मे बी आउटसाइड ऑफ योर इंटेंशन जोन, बट गिव इट अ शॉट because I trust you and I think you're the best person for it. So you trust me for now. That is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is he's saying, you know, my parents hai, meri family and everything, this is the best, right? इतना ही जूस निकाल सकते हो यार तुम मेरा. And I'll prefer that. I'll say ठीक है यार रहने दे फिर तू. And I'll go get somebody, but you will have to handhold that person because you know so much and they don't. And I'll manage it that way. It'll save me the relationship.
Sure.
It'll save me the investment, and it'll save me from the losses that I will incur. Worse, it'll save my self-confidence. Because after a year of international, which is probably a good idea, but the wrong person, I'm not going to come back and think maybe it was a bad idea. Because I sent the wrong person and I didn't have a culture where I could have honest conversation.
And what if दोनों का authenticity is running parallel to each other and will never conjoin?
So find a third person. See,
नहीं मतलब थर्ड पर्सन नहीं, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल आई एम अगेन टेकिंग एन एक्सट्रीम एग्जांपल, मुझे अपना मतलब अब आई एम गोइंग अ लिटिल बिट इनटू पर्सनल लाइफ. आई हैव अ लाइफ पार्टनर, आई बिलीव इन मोनोगमी, द लाइफ पार्टनर बिलीव्स इन पॉलीगमी, एंड फॉर बोथ ऑफ अस इट्स अ वेरी नॉन नेगोशिएबल वो. अब दोनों ऑथेंटिक है, अब लेकिन अब वो तीसरे इंसान की जगह नहीं होगी उस फॉर दिस मोनोगमस पर्सन. But now you have come to a point where either you break apart or there is no other option.
See, you cannot live with authenticity if you are trying to also fit in the social norm. Authenticity requires a different kind of standing up. Most people are showing up to life.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like a participant in a seminar. No, standing up for life is very different from showing up to life. Right? So if I have to talk to a kid in 5th class, I will say algebra is x plus y equal to 6, right? And then if he's in 10th, I will say 3x plus 2y is equal to 15. If the person is doing PhD, I'll say maybe some differential calculus I will put in there. So the advice is very different on the audience who's taking it and what is it that they can pull away with. Now assume that two people are not going well together. I think this is a broader conversation, but alignment has to be on the purpose of marriage, right? Or for an organization, it has to be alignment on the vision of the organization.
Correct.
If two people are entering with their own agendas into an organization, at some point or the other, they will drift apart because there is no singular purpose that is defining their existence in that place, Same with any example that you take. If the two people don't have a unified reason for being together, they will adjust. And adjustment is a very natural process. And if they don't adjust, then they would probably their purpose and alignment is missing, and they should seek it out somewhere else. Same with organizations, same with people. And that's why this leadership thing is so important. It's because I'm not really just going in saying, let's go to the corporate and figure out their problem. Yes, of course. But I also think that there's a commonality between what is in it for me that the corporate keeps thrusting the workshops on, and what is in it for me, for the person who is hungry, but hungry for something else also. And leading yourselves out of tough situations, leading yourselves into good decisions is all leadership. Right? So that's where this becomes extremely crucial for organizations to, or people personally also, to gravitate towards.
People as a topic generally has been one of the most difficult ones to crack for some of the most intelligent people in the world, right? I mean, मैंने देखी थी movie Jobs, तो उसमें भी मतलब Steve Jobs was not a great people person. I mean, it can be subjective. I mean, people can argue or disagree with it. But,
I just don't know enough.
But for example, I mean, now there's a way in which Elon Musk wants to run his company. There is a way in which Trump wants to run his country. I mean, there's a way in which, at the same time, there's Modi. I'm just taking leaders' names because they are very different in their personalities, and at the same time, there is no one, rule which fits all, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you have seen, because you have had a very large corporate stint also. Now you work with so many large companies as well as small companies in terms of helping them with culture, with people, with leadership. So what is your biggest challenges when it comes to transforming leaders?
I think mindset. I think the biggest challenge is only at the onset. It's just accepting that there is a solution that can solve this, rather than they falling in love with the problem statement so much that even if a solution presents itself, they are extremely skeptical about it and would want to rush back to their corner. I think that's the only hassle. Everything else after that is a smooth slide, because people naturally gravitate towards something that grows them. Organizations do the same.
Okay.
So if you give them a solution that helps them grow personally and align to that organization's nuances, they will take it. That hasn't been my experience at all. Them finding me, possibly, and them getting out of their problem mindset and really looking for a solution, that is the biggest hiccup. Now, to your question, and it's a very good question, that leadership is very unique. And a daffodil will grow like a daffodil, a rose will grow like a rose. And you have to let them be what there is. And that is right leadership. So yes, there is no box for it. There is no style for it. The ability to be yourselves, the ability to discover yourselves and present that to the world is more important. And as an organization, you are a florist. You need to know whether pansies go with roses or they look better with daffodils, and what is the objective. Are you going to a party? Are you going to a friend's birthday? What is the organization's objective? That is the kind of flowers you need to pick from. But nourishing, the same soil can nourish both flowers. There is no problem. As long as you let the daffodil and the rose know that there is no objective. The objective is you keep yourself nourished, you give me the best, I take the best care of you. And that's very, very possible. There's no harm. The harm is when you look at everything from an outcome perspective. Then I think that roses has worked, and it stems more from insecurity than it stems from a framework, right? When you're insecure as an organization, then you only want the same success that you got last year. Now the same success was achieved by X roses and 5 daffodils and 20 roses. Now the next year you only want 5 daffodils and 20 roses. That is the problem. Because then you go back and you try to turn every pansy into a rose and every other into daffodil. You are not secure enough to know that I have ample trust with the customer. I'm aligned with the purpose of what the organization wants to deliver, and we will deliver it. Then you are happy to play with pansies, and you will convince the customer that right now pansies is a thing for you. It's seasonal. Let's go with it. Try it. Right? So an insecure organization and an insecure customer is the reason why we are where we are. Right? But if we were willing to go with the flow and understand that things will work out, right? And that a good system will give good results in the long run, rather than a pedicured lawn which looks pretty, but after a certain point doesn't give you the same results, right? Permaculture will tell you. Is the thinking that we need to bring into the organization, right? This pruning the land of all nutrition so you can only create one type of results is now proven wrong, even in agriculture. Now they are saying that a shrub and a bush actually go better together because they feed on each other's energy, they feed on each other's nutrients, rather than one whole lawn of one shrub. Because they're now fighting for the same nutrients. Nobody's investing into it. That's what's become of organizations, and that's why having an app that allows you personalized leadership attention is more important than a cookie cutter one, where you come with, I want innovation, right? Innovation is not an app, it's not a workshop. It's a culmination of thinking big, it's a culmination of creativity, it's a culmination of risk taking, it's a culmination of empathy, it's a culmination of multiple diverse things that you've done and you're bringing them together, right? And then trying to see if this will work. That is innovation. So when you go with innovation and say, I'm going to do an innovation workshop, like maybe for 5 days they'll be innovative, but like everything else that goes into innovation doesn't really innovate. And then they feel like these things are not working. I'm not getting the ROI of my culture and HR people. Like, then how do you explain to them that you haven't really created the garden that will give you this kind of an output? You're looking at fast food and then you're worrying that it's junk, right? So yeah, and I think more people are waking up to this idea. So it's extremely a good place to be for me. And for me also, I've also matured into this thought. I wasn't there myself. When I started, I was always, I want to get this single-minded focus. And if I trampled on a few people, well, okay, save yourselves. Not that I hope I haven't. But that was never my interest. And even now, as you rightly said, if I'm being authentic, it is sometimes taken as abrasive, sometimes not well received, because they have their own insecurities to take care of. Somebody made a very nice analogy. He says that if the wind is flowing, a normal peace person would find it extremely nice, right? Because it's authentic, it's seasonal, it's happening. But if you have boils on your skin, the same wind is going to annoy you extremely. So it's not the wind that has to change. It is the internal insecurities of the people without their ability to take information as it is, to process that information, to be more inclusive, to understand where they're coming from, right? And not take it as a personal thing. All these things need to change, and they won't change till people have had some manan, some ability to think about themselves rather than completely being externally focused on getting results at the cost of sometimes their own self.
If I'm the one who's struggling with insecurities, right, as a leader, these are culminations of everything which has happened in my life. I was just having a chat with one of my colleagues, and that colleague in one of these conventions, so we did a managers training very recently, where we wanted those managers to start thinking like leaders. Now, there somebody spoke about how they keep seeking validation. And and then I was very curious to understand, because why would you seek validation of others when you truly know yourself? And that person, I sat down with that person told me that it has been a function of how her childhood was, how schooling was, how her first marriage was, and then everybody around her, has not made her, thankfully she was very aware of it, but still there was a very clear conscious acceptance that it's very difficult to change that. I know that I'm struggling with it, but it's very difficult to change that. So वो आप जब mindset समझ जाते हो, how do you, is accepting more important or changing?
So both. I think a little bit of both. Both changing and accepting is important. I think the larger perspective is that people think that if I've gone through a certain set of experiences, then that's who I am. And therefore, that's a bigger topic. And also part of leadership, though, you have to move away from this understanding that you're a set of your past incidents. You're a set of what you think right now, right? And what is it you want for yourself. So this ability to focus your identity not on some stable past and events, but on an ambiguous, unknown future is the key between shifting from insecurity to security. So of course, I can't change the experiences of that person, but I can help them see a better future, right? And believe in that future and be pushed and pulled by that. right? And they will automatically, once they believe in a better future for themselves, they will automatically shed some of that things that they don't work. It's just that they don't have a pull right now. They don't feel pulled towards a bigger vision or a bigger way of living. Maybe because they haven't seen it, or maybe we haven't spoken enough. But if you go to a different country, even if after 10 years of working as one culture, you go to the other country, it doesn't take you too long to understand what it is and find a happy mix, right? Same way with what your beliefs and patterns are in the past. You find a good, happy ecosystem that's nourishing you. You find good platforms that will nourish you. You find opportunities where they believe in who you can become, not where you come from. Those will change you. The hassle is that most managers are working from a postcard version of the world. They haven't been there themselves, right? So they're not coming from the experience of, say, Kashmir, right? And the thandi and the nice flowers and everything. They've seen it in a postcard. Maybe somebody in workshop showed them. Now they think they've seen Kashmir. So then they can't look at the other person and try to explain what Kashmir is. There is no energy. There's no real experience. There's no spark in your eyes. There's no inside hunger to share, right? Then the other person is not that inspired, right? So they feel like, compared to your vision, which is not believable yet, I would rather believe where I come from, right? But when you have an inspiring vision and you've been to Kashmir and you carry the cold mist with you, the other person is much more likely to feel that. So how do you get people away from this head understanding of, I've seen the postcard, so I must have seen the place, to really want to experiment with themselves and then go ahead and teach their employees? That's the shift which is extremely important, has to happen at scale.
How do you, as a company, let's say for example, I'm running a company, and I would love for our people to be supremely secured of who they are. So the way you have mentioned that they need to believe in that Kashmir, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere do you think it's my communication, as one of the founders of the company, which I'm maybe not able to translate well enough for people to believe in it?
Maybe you just may want to put more heart in it. Maybe, see, what happens is we are so guarded on an everyday basis that we don't let our heart out, right? And therefore, even though we have the right intentions and everything, the conversation is so head that the other person feels more of a SOP, standard operating procedure, that they have to do to come to your vicinity, circle of trust. They don't really see your heart. And I think while the head is great for getting efficient outcomes, the heart is the thing that pulls people to your vision. So if you can speak with the heart, the things that matter the most to you and why you are being so fixed on certain outcomes, share with them. I'm pretty sure that people respond to a heart more quickly than they respond to the head. And that we've seen over generations happening. So
can you elaborate on this heart thing? So why are people struggling with this whole thing that
because we've created
can I open my heart out?
We've created a very sterile environment when it comes to work, right? We expect outcomes just as much as we expect outcomes from a computer to be error-free. We expect outcomes from a human to be error-free. And heart is a very flow thing. You cannot always get precision outcomes from it.
Of course.
You will get good outcomes as long as you drop the whole efficiency, precision thing. But the rest of the world treats businesses as a machinery. And the way they measure the machinery is the precision of the outcome, right? In that case, then heart gets dropped out from the conversations, from why you've been doing as a company. Now, good companies maintain it at the top. They maintain it in their circles of trust. They know each other like family. But when it comes down the ladder, everybody is in it for pay. And so the only way to incentivize them is to increase the pay. Right? But if you increase this other side of the behavior, if you talk to them about compassion, if you talk to them about alignment, if you talk to them about why we are doing what we are doing, right? And you make that a okay conversation. Start every business meeting with why. Why are we doing this? Why are we here today? Why am I taking your time away from your child today? Right? And this is what we are doing. Start with that. Or your own heart and say, I don't think I'm capable to run this on my own. I'm going to need your help with this. And bear with me, right? I am the boss. So you got to listen to me. But you have to tell me where I'm going wrong. And you have to tell me why that is good for this. and then be an inclusive manager enough to listen to them. And some conversations will be a 5-year-old trying to train a 50-year-old, and you will tackle it that way. Some will be a 25-year-old and a person who's 65-year at heart, and who will just boggle you with their insight, right? So till that happens, you will be a sterile organization which will come up with a certain blood pressure count that you will continue to maintain.
Understood. Then how do companies become so big in spite of such sterile approach?
I think most of the good ones, see, one is really depends on the ecosystem that you're coming from. The younger generation are definitely not going to be part of that environment for too long, because they've been brought and brought up in a lot of love and care. And the expectation of love and care exceeds beyond the 12 years or 20 years there with their parents. They do want a warm, nourishing environment now. For us, we were extremely clear that work is something that we do to sustain ourselves. It's not an expression of life. For them, it's an expression of life, and therefore, as we conversed earlier also, I'm really looking forward to the Gen Z figuring this out, because that is a language even I want to learn better.
Nice.
Right?
So now that we are at it, I mean, and we had differentiating views. So we are seeing now, because we work with a lot of startups, they are now talking about their leadership team not exceeding a certain age, right? Earlier people used to talk about minimum years of experience when they looked at leadership. Now they're talking about maximum years of experience which they don't want to breach. So obviously, clearly, there will be fresh blood which will be coming into the system, which will be holding leadership positions. I've seen this go both ways, north and south, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of people, because of this love and nourishment which they have grew up with, which they have, the kind of comfortable environment they come up with, become supremely entitled. कि मतलब ये तो मैं हूँ ही, अब तुम लोग को जिस तरीके, so the biggest problem with leaders is that the way they want to be treated and the way they treat people is very different, right? तो ये मुझे ये भी दिखता है, but at the same time वो hunger भी दिखता है, supremely sharp, everybody, this is default. But ये जो मतलब ये जो exposure है of being less resilient, being less pushy, or for that matter having very low level of attention span. So all these things, don't you think will affect the leaders of tomorrow?
They will. But like I said, they're finding a new language. Yeah, they don't speak our language, and that's frustrating. But they're finding a new language, and I feel that once they have a command of it and they are in the system for long enough to realize that this language doesn't work for outcomes, maybe works for showing up, they will figure it out. The thing that I'm more optimistic about is the fact that they're smarter than we were, in the sense that the ability to question and to inquire and to have faith on themselves and on their own narrative is not a bad idea. We had faith in others. We believed their narrative, and we trusted the narrative. We went ahead with it. That was our strength. And that strength gave steadiness. It gave stable outcomes. Now the world is also looking at unstable outcomes, because we know that stability could just be pulled away from the carpet as quickly as we got it. So they're also looking at this new generation using this ability to work with ambiguity, to work with self-confidence more than giving you a list of SOPs that you need to perform and check out after the end of the day. They're looking at it. Yeah, but it's a box of chocolates, right? You will get some good ones and some you don't like, and you'll have to figure out how to get to a better box of chocolates for your organization.
Sure.
But for sure, these guys turning out to be more unique and more true to themselves. Like I said, they have the value, maybe not the skill to navigate the system yet. But I do credit them for their ability to speak their mind, even if it's an improper truth. But it is them. And I'd rather have that on the table. And no doubt, I'm facing the hit of it myself in my own organization. It's not hunky-dory with the newer ones. It's not hunky-dory with the older ones as well. This run for profit, and then the inability to give value to the customer 10 times the value that we've been brought up with as a thinking mindset. It's still not there with a lot of founders or younger organizations yet. So I don't think experience always means maturity in all aspects. And I don't think that younger generation are immature in all aspects either. Sometimes my kid teaches me things that I wish I was taught earlier.
Okay. I'm in my 40s. I'm a leader. Let's say if in case कल की डेट में मेरी नौकरी चली जाती है, and how do I stay relevant as a leader? I mean, especially with the new workforce which is coming in. I mean, how can I stay relevant and in demand in such kind of market which is changing or evolving with such a rapid pace?
I would recommend, I think to each their own, they would know that best. But as a broad brush stroke, I would say, I think the era where you are in demand is gone. And that goes for the younger children as well. I think you have to create demand. You have to be your own personal brand, and you have to be able to create that ecosystem and little world that you want to create. But that said, it was very difficult for me also to move out of my service mindset into an entrepreneurial one, despite all the spirituality and own inner development plus external development. Still took a long time. For a while, for 5-6 months, I still wished somebody would just tell me what to do, because I'm so good at executing other people's commands.
Yeah.
Even I was brash in that also. Like I had my own thing going on, but I loved having some kind of a direction कि जाना किस तरफ है. फिर मैं अपनी मस्ती से जाऊँगी. But as an entrepreneur, you are figuring out what direction it is, and you have to hope that you know what it is. So you have a higher self to yourselves that is going to tell you what to do, and then you are going to believe that direction, and then you're going to run on it as an execution side of it. This ability to compartmentalize both the strategic side of yourself and have trust in the strategic side, and then also on your execution side, has been the biggest shift as an entrepreneur. Not to mention the overwhelming nature of everything else that was easily handled earlier.
Yeah.
42 years old or 30 years or 22 years old as well.
Yeah.
I think 22 years are also struggling with the older ecosystems and asking the same questions of how will we survive. 42 years is changing too much so rapidly, they don't know whether they will fit back anymore.
Yeah.
So either of those people, I would recommend work on yourselves. Now is a good time to sit back and see what is it you wanted to do and go for it. And you know you will not get success, and I don't think that necessarily success should be your only parameter immediately. Happiness should be your only parameter, and I understand that after 42 years of using success as the only measure for decision making, choosing happiness and own unique strengths as a decision making measure, which others will not necessarily relate to, is a high ask, but it is the only way.
But happiness is the biggest success, right?
Not to everybody, no.
So why do you chase success? So that you can be happy.
Well, if that was the case, when you had all the success, what did you do with it? Because if you really chased happiness, you will figure out that success is a byproduct.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But we think of success as the first product, and happiness is a byproduct we buy with the success that we have earned.
Nobody would want to be a sad, successful person.
But then yet there are so many of them. If you're a happy person, you will want your organization to be secure. You will want your organization to ask the tough questions. You will want your organization not to be incentivized by pay alone, but by inner growth, external growth, opportunities, exploration. But still the processes, the policies and everything that we set, our guidelines are so rigid. They're only and only ladders of success. This VP, this tag, what is that? You don't really get any happiness out of that. You get success. So if you really look at the way the organizations are lined up currently, or the system in which we are working, is a system which is purely based on making you feel successful. Right? Because if you genuinely appreciated the ability to be happy, no, just changing designation is not happiness.
Can you have super normal growth by staying happy all the time?
Absolutely. I don't think there is any other way to grow.
Okay.
We don't, a sad, insecure person does not create productive results for a long, sustained period of time. It is a separate thing that we find happiness out of our relationships, out of our children, out of vacations. But it is happiness ultimately that is coming back into the workforce that is driving those results. It isn't success. So happiness is, of course, people think happiness is this butterfly thing and happy-go-lucky person. Happiness is not that. Happiness has its depth as well. So superficial happiness, where children are coming happy-go-lucky, couldn't care what's happening to the company. No, that doesn't give sustained profound results. But deep happiness in terms of alignment with the customer, with the purpose, with why you're doing what you're doing, and you're learning from it. Yeah, it is boring, but somebody has to do it. Better be me than somebody else. Those kind of happiness in helping, in seeking, in service, which is deep happiness. Yeah, of course. That is your nuclear activator that that really runs companies.
I truly believe in it because, I personally feel that happy teams are the best performers, not the other way around.
Yep.
Because they are performers, they are not happy. Because
But
they are
real happy teams. I've seen companies go for happiness index doing these parties and pool tables, which is not bad, which is a great in segue into it. But it's not just happiness.
Happiness in silence.
Happiness is fulfillment, is a sense of purpose, is a sense of service, is a sense of meaning to life. Those things we are not doing with the pool table, right? So we will only get little results.
Exactly. You spoke about how spirituality, आपने बहुत तेजी से बोला था तो फिर उसमें एक word use किया था spirituality, which when you were moving from your corporate avatar to an entrepreneur, spirituality also played a certain role, right?
I think it's played a role.
How did you identify it, and then what did it do?
I had integrated myself in that side of the world for a very long time. Even when I was in the corporate, I just kept it two separate. That means that was a vacation and an inner pursuit. I did not bring it here. But in the last few years of running the culture side of TCS, I think that is where I realized that this side has actually powered me way more than the competency and the functional, because I used to feel happy that clients would trust me ASAP. I would go in as a team lead and they would make me a project manager in 2 days. And I would be like, oh my God, I must have done something amazing. I never realized that it wasn't the technology and the competency. It was just the character who I brought in. The commitment and the character that I brought in. And that helped me in the last 4 years realize that that's what I want to give back. Because that's what's my experience. And giving that back is why we created Quonscious. And we said, okay, that's the services side now. We have to address those we can't reach. So an app would be great. That's how we got.
Sure. So what does spirituality mean to you? I mean, how have you internalized it?
I think of it as a better, higher self. Because I don't think I will be the same way as my guru is, for example. I think that he sets a high bar, which is a great place to be. I feel of it as the higher self that I attain to be, and I'm not always there. But it is a sense of values, how I feel, what I think, how I do, what time I spend, how do I make people feel after they've spoken to me. And even if I've scolded somebody else, I don't mind it internally anymore. So that's spirituality to me in some sense. It doesn't irk my buttons. I know that I had to say that for a longer outcome that I want to achieve from this interaction. I want to leave the world better. And sometimes tough love is equally important as gentle love. And knowing that and using the right emotions, ka masala mix to achieve that helps me distance myself from my identity and have a bigger person to that higher self and say, okay, what is the outcome you want to achieve? And how can your identity with all its nuances still be aligned to that outcome? To me, that's spirituality. Being able to keep your identity aside and then use that identity, not be driven by the identity, but use that identity to a better cause. I am who I am. I can't, beyond a point, keep tinkering around with that. But I have a higher self that drives that identity. That gives me more power than...
How do you identify that higher self?
You sit with yourself, have an experience of meditation, go deeper into who you really are. Unless you go to Kashmir, you can't have an experience of Kashmir or run from that benchmark. So the more I engage with these practices, I realize I have my benchmark gets deeper and deeper. My baseline becomes better and better. And the distance between who I am and who I really am is the gap I have to close more than the successful measure of money or cars or everything else. That is also great. I don't mind the comfort. But it isn't my most important focus. The focus is to keep my higher selves, check in my higher selves and come to work. So that it isn't my insecurities and my identities and my other hassles that drive the conversation as much as possible, but having checked in back and back into what you're trying to achieve and is this the right way to do it, right? Is that you? Or is it somebody else's version of what you should be saying right now that is driving that narrative? So yeah, that to me is spirituality. Knowing yourselves as closely and intimately as you can is spirituality.
Mental health has become a very prevalent talk of the town now, both at work or at personal work. Do you think it always existed but wasn't spoken about enough? But now people have started finding mediums through which they can talk more? or has it really deteriorated as well?
I don't have a very clear view on this. I don't know. The data doesn't tell me. But I do know that the conversation on mental health has definitely become more now.
Sure.
I don't know whether, because it was such a taboo, even if somebody had it in my parents' time, they wouldn't say it. And the society would also kind of navigate around it, not to make it so visible to the other person that, you have your nuances. I do think that, and this is just a personal observation, not even a truth for me yet, but I do think that this distancing from who we are and the conversations that we need to have and the consistently running on the material treadmill is definitely taken a toll on the ability to express yourself, your mind, and authenticity is as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right? It takes so much toll to be somebody everybody will like. And the demands of what they will like are only getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So cookie cutter. So I think that pressure is definitely leading to people feeling like they're mentally checked out from that whole equation, and they wish it would go away rather than address it. I think that is a huge area that you want to delve into. And again, which is why I said when we want people to evolve through our organization, the essential idea is to evolve what? Is to evolve into a higher side of thinking, higher side of feeling, of doing, right? Then all these small nuances like ethics nahi hai, accountability nahi hai, these go away. Because not only do you teach them the inner wisdom of what is needed to be present to yourselves, and then how do you, the skill to navigate all of those as needed. And that is more important than giving people peripheral, like a clown can only juggle so many balls, right?
Yeah.
One ball is ethics, one ball is leadership, one ball is you have to be nice to your people, one ball is that the person should not feel bad about what you said. This is too much to handle. Then your children should be turned out a certain way, you should turn out a certain way, you should not have weight above this and that, you should not have weight below this and that. That's just too much noise for a normal, naive people who are more innocent, more gentler in the inside, find it extremely tough to manage these balls. And when these start falling, they think that it's their personal failure, which starts showing up in their mental and emotional health and physical health.
Final question, Nidhi. I mean, what are the most common kind of things which leaders are most anxious about these days in terms of bringing them up to speed? And what will be your message for the leaders out there in terms of how can they build secure, happy organizations?
I think leaders in organizations are insecure or have concerns on different levels. Like at the bottom of the level, there is accountability, the ethics, the work styles, the quality of what it is that they want to do. At the higher levels, it is the quantity of the work. At lower levels, it is the quality of the work. So at different parts of the pyramid in the organization, they're worried about different things. I think they all understand. It's just, and I know that CEOs really look forward to the CHROs in terms of how they help the organization. So there's a lot of good work already happening. It just needs a little more depth in which technology is allowing us to do by making it further more personalized, further more tuned to what the user is doing. For example, we are looking at basic even appraisals. So if you appraise your person, right now it's happening at the end of the year. I can in my app just appraise you from this conversation. You did this well, read this book. Or you think a little bit of strategic thinking in this direction will help your perspective. Let me share it with you. So that is the kind of area we are going into, right? So it's a more micro behavioral change on an everyday basis than an institute on the side that comes in occasionally. So that's one thing. And I think leaders, employees as such are definitely hungry for more progress. They just don't feel that this cookie cutter one fit all thing is working for them. So I think that would be my take, and I think as a final thank you for having me here. I think message for all leaders would be to quickly become a leader in a unique leader yourselves, because that is the only way. Unless your inner voice is strengthened, there is no way to find a way for yourselves. The outer noise is too loud if you can't hear your own thing. I'll say one last sentence. When I used to go from here to Fort in the traffic, and I used to give that as an example in my in my conversations with the leaders.
Here, matlab,
From Powai to Fort,
okay.
it's about an hour and a half, and Subeh ka traffic and everything else, and it used to be extremely noisy, right? So you kind of start reacting to that noise, right? Acha idhar se nikalo, acha udhar se nikalo, or things like that. The difference between being a leader, even though you're in a situation you cannot control, is that you put the music on. Right? When you put the music on, like literally everything feels like it's an orchestra performing to the music. So you don't mind it as much.
Yeah.
So leadership is that inner awakening that you need, that ability to put the music on when everything else is not working, and let the whole system play music for you, rather than you consistently react to the music that's outside.
Yeah.
I think that is something I would wish for everybody.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nidhi. It was lovely chatting with you. Thanks for taking your time.
Thank you so much for having me.